Imagine waking up to news of a radical organization threatening to execute innocent hostages. Sounds like a plot from a thriller movie, right? But this is no fiction. This is the reality that Israel woke up to recently, thanks to Hamas. The recent threat made by Hamas to execute Israeli hostages has left the world in a state of shock and disbelief. This is not the first time that an organization has resorted to such extreme measures, but the audacity of Hamas to publicly declare such a horrifying plan is nothing short of baffling. Hamas, a Palestinian Sunni Islamic fundamentalist organization, has been in a long-standing conflict with Israel. Their strained relationship, marked by numerous clashes and disputes, took a menacing turn when Hamas unveiled their plan to execute hostages from Israel. The detailed threat was communicated in a manner that sent ripples of fear and anxiety across the globe, leaving everyone questioning the sanity behind such a decision. This alarming announcement by Hamas has escalated the tension between them and Israel, casting a dark shadow on the already fragile peace in the region. The situation, fraught with uncertainty and apprehension, has put the international community on high alert. The threat of execution, a horrific prospect in itself, is also a blatant violation of international law, raising questions about the motives behind Hamas's radical decision. The hostages, innocent individuals caught in the crossfire of this conflict, are now living under the constant fear of execution. Their lives hang in the balance, their futures uncertain. They have become pawns in a dangerous game of power and politics, their fate tied to the whims of an organization that seems to have lost all sense of humanity. This shocking threat of execution is not just a direct attack on the hostages, but also an affront to the principles of peace, justice, and human rights that the world strives to uphold. It's a grim reminder of the lengths to which some organizations will go to assert their dominance and further their agendas. So what led Hamas to make such a drastic and shocking decision? Let's delve into their motives. To understand such an extreme action, we must first understand the mind behind it. Hamas is not just any organization, it has a deep-rooted ideology that drives its decisions. Founded in the late 80s, Hamas evolved from the Muslim Brotherhood, a religious and political group originating from Egypt. The organization's name is an acronym for Harakat al-Muqawama al-Islamiyya, which translates to Islamic Resistance Movement. This name alone provides a glimpse into the group's main objective: resistance, specifically against what they perceive as Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories. Hamas's ideology is deeply rooted in Islam. They believe in the establishment of an Islamic state in the region, which they hope to achieve through various means, including armed struggle. This belief is not just a political stance, but a religious duty they feel obligated to fulfill. However, it is essential to note that Hamas is not a monolithic organization. It has a political wing and a military wing, each with its own set of objectives and methods. The political wing is involved in the governance of the Gaza Strip and often engages in diplomatic efforts. The military wing, on the other hand, is responsible for armed resistance and has been designated as a terrorist organization by many nations worldwide. One key factor that shapes Hamas's decisions and actions is their view of Israel. They perceive Israel as an occupier, an aggressor that has unlawfully seized Palestinian lands. This perception fuels their resistance and justifies their actions in their eyes. However, it's important to remember that not all Palestinians, or even all members of Hamas, share this narrative. Another driving force behind Hamas's actions is their desire for recognition and legitimacy. They want to be seen as the true representatives of the Palestinian people, and they often resort to drastic actions to assert this claim. The threat to execute Israeli hostages can be seen in this light, a desperate, misguided attempt to gain attention and legitimacy. So what does this all mean for their decision to threaten Israeli hostages with execution? From their perspective, they might see it as a necessary act of resistance, a way to assert their authority and to pressure Israel. However, from an international standpoint, it's a dangerous and foolish move that risks escalating the conflict and causing more harm than good. Now that we've understood Hamas's mindset, Let's see why this decision is a colossal mistake. Threatening to execute innocent hostages is not just morally reprehensible, it's also a strategic blunder. This statement rings especially true when we delve into the recent ominous threat made by Hamas. This audacious move to execute Israel hostages has the potential to set off a series of unfortunate events, not just for Hamas, but for the entire region. Why is this a blunder, you may ask? Let's break it down. Firstly, this move by Hamas is likely to garner significant international backlash. The world has evolved and grown, and such barbaric acts are no longer tolerated, nor do they gain any sympathy or support. Instead, they lead to isolation and condemnation. Countries that may have been neutral or even sympathetic to the Palestinian cause might find this act too repugnant to overlook. This could lead to Hamas finding itself even more isolated on the international stage than it already is. Secondly, this threat has the potential to derail peace negotiations. The Middle East is a region that has long been marred by conflict, and peace is a delicate balance that requires careful negotiation and compromise. By threatening to execute hostages, Hamas has thrown a proverbial wrench into the works. This act not only escalates tensions, but also undermines trust, making it even more challenging to find common ground and work towards a peaceful resolution. Moreover, this threat goes against the very principles of humanity. To use innocent lives as bargaining chips is a gross violation of human rights, and it diminishes the credibility of Hamas as a political entity. It's a move that reeks of desperation and lack of foresight. It is not the action of a group looking for a peaceful resolution, but rather of one seeking to provoke and antagonize. Finally, this decision could potentially galvanize the Israeli public and international community against Hamas. It could result in a rallying cry for those who were previously indifferent or even supportive of the Palestinian cause. This could lead to a shift in public opinion, further isolating Hamas and making their position even more precarious. In conclusion, the decision by Hamas to threaten the execution of Israel hostages is a blunder of colossal proportions. It's a move that could have serious ramifications, not just for Hamas, but for the entire region. It's a decision that could potentially escalate the conflict, derail peace negotiations, and isolate Hamas on the international stage. Hamas's decision could have far-reaching implications, but what could those be? Let's investigate. Actions have consequences, and in the world of international politics, those consequences can be severe. In the intricate dance of international relations, every step matters, every decision echoes. Hamas's recent decision to threaten the execution of Israeli hostages is a disturbing move that has the potential to reverberate far beyond their immediate surroundings. Let's delve into the potential repercussions of such a drastic move. Firstly, let's consider the damage to their reputation. Hamas, already viewed with suspicion and mistrust by many, may have irreparably tarnished their image with this decision. The world watches with a critical eye as they threaten the lives of innocent hostages, an act that is universally condemned. This could lead to an increase in global isolation, making it harder for Hamas to garner support or sympathy. Moving on, let's think about the implications for their relationships with other nations. The international community has long championed human rights, and any violation of these rights is viewed with utmost seriousness. Hamas's decision to execute hostages might strain their relationships with other nations, potentially leading to sanctions or other punitive measures. It's a risky gamble, one that could leave them alienated on the world stage. And let's not forget the potential for retaliation. Threatening the lives of hostages is a direct provocation, a deliberate act of aggression that could invite retaliation. Israel, a nation known for its strong defense capabilities, might respond with force. This could escalate the conflict, leading to increased violence and loss of life. It's a dangerous game of brinkmanship, where the stakes are devastatingly high. Moreover, this decision could have profound implications for peace negotiations. The Middle East has long been a region marked by conflict, and any hope for peace is fragile at best. By threatening to execute hostages, Hamas is effectively sabotaging any chance of peace talks. It's a move that undermines trust, fuels animosity, and pushes peace further out of reach. Finally, the decision might also impact Hamas internally. There could be dissent within the ranks, leading to fragmentation and instability. It's a decision that could sow the seeds of discord, threatening to tear the organization apart from within. In sum, the potential fallout from Hamas's decision to execute Israeli hostages is vast and far-reaching. It's a decision that could damage their reputation, strain their relationships with other nations, invite retaliation, disrupt peace negotiations, and even lead to internal instability. It's a decision that carries significant risks, and the consequences could be severe. In the face of such potential fallout, one must ask, why would Hamas make such a decision? Let's wrap things up. As we've analyzed, Hamas's threat to execute Israel hostages is a decision fraught with potential disaster. This conclusion isn't based on mere conjecture, but on a careful examination of the implications this action could have on international relations, the precarious peace negotiations, and the very lives of the innocent hostages held captive. In our exploration, we have delved into the motives of Hamas and the complex dynamics between them and Israel. We've discovered that this decision, far from being a strategic move, seems to be driven by a misguided ideology that fails to consider the broader picture. It is a decision that challenges the basic principles of humanity and international law, treading dangerously on the thin ice of diplomacy. Hamas's decision to threaten the lives of innocent hostages is not only morally reprehensible, but also strategically flawed. It is an action that jeopardizes their standing in the international community, potentially isolating them further and damaging their reputation. Countries that may have previously been neutral or sympathetic to their cause may now reconsider their stance, given this blatant disregard for human life. Furthermore, this threat undermines the intricate and fragile peace negotiations that are currently underway. It adds another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation, potentially derailing any progress made towards a peaceful resolution. It's a move that could instigate a spiral of retaliation and conflict, causing more harm than good to their cause. The potential consequences of this decision are not only confined to the political realm. The lives of the hostages are at stake. Their families are plunged into an abyss of uncertainty and fear. The psychological impact on these individuals and their loved ones is immeasurable. It's a decision that prioritizes political gain over the sanctity of human life, a decision that is inherently flawed and inexcusable. We must also consider the potential impact on the Palestinian people themselves. Such actions by Hamas could potentially fuel further division and conflict within their own community. It could lead to a loss of support for Hamas, as the people question the wisdom of a leadership that resorts to such drastic measures. It's a decision that risks undermining the very cause they claim to support. In conclusion, the threat to execute Israel hostages is a decision that is fraught with stupidity on multiple levels. It is a decision that is morally, strategically, and politically flawed. It's a decision that risks alienating Hamas from the international community, jeopardizing peace negotiations, and causing untold harm to innocent lives. As we continue to observe this situation, we can only hope that sanity prevails over such reckless decisions. The stakes are high, the potential consequences devastating. We must hope for a resolution that prioritizes peace, humanity, and the preservation of innocent lives. Thank you for joining us in this deep dive into Hamas's recent shocking mistake. Your engagement in these discussions is what drives us to continue exploring these complex issues. We hope this analysis has offered a new perspective on the situation, shedding light on the inherent stupidity of such a decision. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinions matter, and we look forward to hearing your take on this issue. Remember to subscribe for more insightful discussions as we continue to dissect the intricacies of international conflicts and their potential implications. We appreciate your support and thank you for being part of our community.